At 72, I find myself navigating a path I never imagined. The morning sun streams through my kitchen window, casting long shadows across the empty chair where Tom used to sit. 45 years of marriage, and now there's only silence. I pour coffee into a single cup these days. The house feels different now, bigger, emptier, like a museum filled with memories that echo off the walls. My daughter Jessica tells me I need to move forward, but how do you move forward when half of your heart is missing? The routine helps, I suppose. Wake up at 7, make the bed, only one side gets messy now, brew coffee, watch the morning news. Sometimes I catch myself turning to share a headline with Tom, only to remember he's not there. It's been 18 months since he left us. The doctors called it a heart attack, quick and unexpected. One moment he was tending to his beloved tomato plants in the backyard, the next. I still haven't touched his garden. The weeds have taken over now, choking out the vegetables he so carefully nurtured. Jessica visits every Sunday, like clockwork. She brings homemade lasagna, her attempt to make sure I'm eating properly. "Mom," she says, setting down her casserole dish, "I'm worried about you." I give her my practiced smile, the one I've perfected over these past months. "I'm fine, sweetheart." But she sees through it, just as she always has. "You spend too much time alone," she persists, her eyes scanning the living room. Tom's crossword puzzles still stack neatly on the coffee table, untouched. His reading glasses rest exactly where he left them. The house is so quiet now, I admit, more to myself than to her. That's when she first mentions the idea of a dog. "Just think about it, Mom," she says, her eyes lighting up with hope. The shelter has so many sweet older dogs looking for homes. I dismiss the idea immediately. "I'm too old to take care of a dog," I protest. "Besides, what would I do with a dog?" But Jessica is persistent, just like her father. Week after week, she brings it up. She shows me pictures on her phone of adoptable dogs. She tells me stories about her friend's mother who got a whole new lease on life after adopting a rescue. I resist, but I can feel my resolve weakening. Maybe it's the loneliness eating away at me. Maybe it's the way the silence seems to grow louder with each passing day. Or maybe it's just to stop Jessica's gentle but relentless campaign. "Fine," I finally say one Sunday afternoon. "I'll look." Just look. The shelter is nothing like I expected. It's clean and bright, with cheerful yellow walls and photos of happy adoption stories. The barking hits me first, a cacophony of hopeful voices calling out for attention. Jessica squeezes my hand as a young volunteer leads us through the kennels. "We have several older dogs who would be perfect," she says, her name tag reading Amy. That's when I see him. While other dogs jump, pee and bark, he sits quietly, watching me with gentle brown eyes. Something about his gaze stops me in my tracks. "That's Buddy," Amy says softly. "He's about 5 years old, a golden retriever mix." "Why isn't he barking like the others?" I ask. "He's just different," Amy explains. "He came from a puppy mill that was shut down. Despite everything he's been through, he's incredibly gentle." I find myself drawn to his kennel. He rises slowly, tail wagging tentatively. There's something in his eyes, a wisdom, a kindness that reminds me of. I push the thought away. "Would you like to meet him?" Amy asks. Before I can answer, Jessica is already nodding enthusiastically. They lead us to a small meeting room with a worn couch and scattered toys. Buddy enters calmly, his nails clicking softly on the linoleum floor. He approaches me slowly, as if sensing my nervousness. When he rests his head on my knee, something inside me shifts. His eyes meet mine, and I feel seen in a way I haven't since Tom left. "He likes you, Mom," Jessica whispers. I reach out tentatively to stroke his soft golden fur. "We could do a trial period," Amy suggests. "See how it goes." I hear myself agreeing before I've even made a conscious decision. The paperwork seems to fly by in a blur. Before I know it, we're walking to the car with a leash in my hand. Buddy follows perfectly, staying close to my side. The drive home is quiet, but it's a different kind of quiet. Buddy sits in the back seat, watching the world pass by through the window. Jessica chatters excitedly about dog beds and food bowls. I'm still wondering what I've gotten myself into. When we arrive home, Buddy steps carefully through the front door. He doesn't rush or bound around like I expected. Instead, he walks slowly through each room, as if paying respect to the space. When he reaches Tom's chair in the living room, he pauses. For a moment, I hold my breath. Then he settles quietly beside it, looking up at me with those knowing eyes. Jessica helps set up his bed in the corner of the living room. We arrange his food and water bowls in the kitchen. She shows me how much to feed him and when. "You're going to be fine, Mom," she assures me before leaving. "Call me if you need anything." And then it's just me and Buddy. The house feels different already. Not empty exactly, but changed. That first evening, I follow my usual routine. I heat up leftover lasagna for dinner. I watch the evening news. But now there's the soft sound of breathing from the corner. Every time I look over, those gentle eyes are watching me. When I get ready for bed, Buddy follows me up the stairs. He waits patiently while I change into my nightgown. When I climb into bed, he settles on the floor beside me. Not Tom's side, I'm grateful for that. Just nearby. That first night, I cry quietly into my pillow. I hear Buddy stir, feel his nose gently touch my hand hanging over the bed. "I'm okay," I whisper, though I'm not sure who I'm trying to convince. The next morning, I wake to find him in the same spot. He hasn't moved all night. Our routine develops naturally over the next few weeks. Morning walks force me to get up and dressed. I discover muscles I forgot I had. The neighborhood looks different at 7 a.m. I meet other dog walkers, Martha from 3 doors down, Jim with his energetic terrier. They smile and wave, stop to chat. I realize I've lived here for 30 years but barely know my neighbors. Buddy walks perfectly on his leash, never pulling. He stops when I stop, moves when I move. At the dog park, he stays close, only running after tennis balls when I throw them. He seems more interested in watching over me than playing with other dogs. One morning, about a month after bringing Buddy home, I forget to set my alarm. I wake to find him sitting beside the bed, my slippers placed carefully near my feet. Just like Tom used to do. The similarity catches me off guard. I sit there for a long moment, staring at the slippers. Buddy watches me, head tilted slightly. "Thank you," I whisper, and his tail wags gently. From that day on, he brings me my slippers every morning. It becomes our ritual, as natural as breathing. The days begin to take on a new rhythm. Morning walks, breakfast together, gardening while Buddy lounges in the sun. I find myself talking to him as I work. "These tomatoes were Tom's pride and joy," I tell him one day. He would have hated to see them so neglected. Buddy listens with those understanding eyes. Somehow, his presence gives me the strength to finally clean up the garden. I pull weeds, turn soil, plant new seedlings. Buddy stays close, occasionally bringing me his ball. the neighbors notice the change. "Your garden's looking beautiful again, Sarah," Martha calls over the fence. I realize I'm smiling more these days. Not the practiced smile I give Jessica, but real ones. Buddy has a way of making me laugh. Like when he chases squirrels in the backyard. Or when he carries around his favorite stuffed duck, so gentle it's never torn. He seems to know when the bad days hit. The days when I can't stop thinking about Tom. When the memories feel too heavy to carry. On those days, he stays especially close. He rests his head on my lap while I look through old photo albums. He listens as I tell stories about the past. About how Tom and I met at a dance in 1968. About our first apartment, barely bigger than a closet. About the day Jessica was born. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if he really understands. There's something in the way he watches me. Something almost human in his responses. When I cry, he brings me his stuffed duck. When I laugh, his tail wags. When I'm lost in thought, he gently nudges my hand. Jessica notices the change in me. "You seem better, Mom," she says during our Sunday lunch. Buddy lies at my feet under the tea. Abel. He's good company, I admit. But sometimes I wonder if it's becoming too much. I find myself turning down lunch invitations from old friends. I can't leave Buddy alone too long, I tell them. I talk to him more than I talk to people. Share secrets I've never told anyone. At night, he's started sleeping closer to the bed. Sometimes, in the dark, I reach down to touch his fur. Just to make sure he's real. Just to know I'm not alone. One evening, as I'm getting ready for bed, I catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I look different somehow. Less haunted, maybe. But there's something else. A dependency I hadn't noticed forming. I think about how I've been declining social invitations. How my world has narrowed to just me and Buddy. Jessica's words from her last visit echo in my mind. "Mom, when was the last time you saw your friends?" I stand there, toothbrush in hand, really thinking about it. I can't remember. Buddy appears in the doorway, watching me with those knowing eyes. What am I doing? I whisper to my reflection. He tilts his head, as if asking the same question. That night, I lie awake for hours. Thinking about Tom. About the life we shared. About the life I'm living now. Buddy's steady breathing from beside the bed is both comforting and concerning. Have I replaced one dependency with another? Am I hiding from my grief behind this gentle creature's love? The questions swirl in my mind until dawn breaks. As if sensing my turmoil, Buddy brings me my slippers. But this morning, the gesture brings tears to my eyes. "You're not Tom," I tell him softly. He looks at me with those understanding eyes. And for the first time, I truly understand too. He was never meant to be Tom. The realization hits me like a gentle wave. I've been using Buddy as a shield. A way to avoid facing the world without Tom. That morning, I do something I haven't done in months. I call Martha, my old bridge partner. "Sarah?" Her voice is surprised but warm. "I was wondering if you'd like to have coffee this afternoon." There's a pause, and I almost lose my nerve. "I'd love to," she says, and I can hear her smile. "Buddy can come too," she adds. "I've got a lovely backyard." So that's how I find myself sitting in Martha's garden. Buddy lounges at my feet while Martha pours coffee. "We've missed you at Bridge Club," she says gently. The words make my chest tight. I've missed it too, I admit. Tom always said I was too competitive at cards. We both laugh, and it feels good. Natural. Martha tells me about her grandchildren. About the neighborhood gossip I've missed. About how the bridge club isn't the same without my strategic coughing. For the first time in ages, I feel like myself again. Not just a widow. Not just Buddy's owner. But Sarah. On the walk home, I make another decision. I call Jessica. Would you and the kids like to come for dinner tomorrow? Instead of Sunday? She asks, surprised. In addition to Sunday, I say. Her delighted response warms my heart. The next day is a whirlwind of activity. I haven't cooked a proper meal for company in months. Buddy watches from the kitchen doorway as I prepare Tom's famous meatloaf recipe. When Jessica arrives with the kids, the house fills with noise. Tommy, my grandson, immediately drops to the floor to play with Buddy. Emily, his younger sister, shows off her new ballet moves. The dog watches it all with patient amusement. The house feels different, Mom, Jessica says, helping me with dishes. It feels alive again. She's right. The silence has been replaced by laughter. By stories. By life. That night, after everyone leaves, I sit in Tom's chair for the first time since he died. Buddy rests his head on my lap, his eyes meeting mine. We need to make some changes, I tell him. He wags his tail slowly, as if in agreement. The next morning, I call the senior center. Do you still have space in that book club? I ask. They do. It meets on Thursdays at 2. I also call the animal shelter where I found Buddy. We're always looking for volunteers, Amy tells me enthusiastically. So my calendar begins to fill. Book club on Thursdays. Volunteer work at the shelter on Tuesday mornings. Bridge club every other Saturday. Buddy adapts to the new schedule with his usual grace. He charms everyone at the senior center. The shelter staff greet him like a celebrity. Even my bridge partners welcome him to our games. He brings us luck, Martha insists. Slowly, my world expands again. I make new friends at the book club. Women who understand loss. Who share their own stories of grief and recovery. At the shelter, I work with dogs who remind me of Buddy. Quiet souls looking for connection. I tell their stories to potential adopters. Sometimes the quiet ones have the most to give, I say. Jessica notices the changes. You're different, Mom, she says during our Sunday lunch. Happier. Buddy, as always, lies at my feet. But now he shares my attention with others. He seems content with this new balance. One evening, as summer fades into fall, I finally open Tom's closet. His clothes still hang there, untouched since that day. His favorite sweater. His old work shirts. The suit he wore to Jessica's wedding. Buddy sits beside me as I slowly begin to sort through them. Some items I'll keep. Others I'll donate. Each piece holds a memory. A story. I tell them all to Buddy. He listens, as he always does. But now the stories don't bring just pain. There's sweetness too. Gratitude for the life we shared. As I fold the last sweater, I realize something. Tom would be proud of me. Of the way I'm learning to live again. Of how I've let love back into my life. Not just Buddy's love. But the love of family and friends. The love of community. That night, I dream of Tom. He's in his garden, tending his tomatoes. He KS up and smiles at me. You're doing good, sweetheart, he says. I wake with tears on my cheeks. but they're different tears than before. Buddy brings me my slippers. I bend down to hug him. Thank you, I whisper. Not just for the slippers, but for everything. For being the bridge I needed. For helping me find my way back to life. For teaching me that love doesn't end with loss. It just changes form. That morning, I make coffee for myself. The empty chair across the table doesn't seem so empty anymore. It holds memories now, not just absence. Buddy lies in his usual spot nearby. Through the window, I can see Tom's garden. The tomatoes are ripening. New growth pushing through old soil. Life finding its way forward. Just like me. The autumn air carries a crisp promise of change. I've started hosting monthly card games at my house. Martha brings her famous apple pie. Helen from book club contributes her oatmeal cookies. Even Jim from the dog park joins us occasionally. Buddy greets each guest like a perfect host. He seems to know who needs a gentle head on their lap. Who might appreciate a playful moment with his stuffed duck. Who just needs his quiet presence nearby. The house fills with laughter and conversation. The kind of warmth I thought I'd never feel again. Your dog is something special, Helen says one evening. I smile, watching him make his rounds. He helped me find my way back, I tell her. The others nod in understanding. Many of them have their own stories of loss. Their own paths back to joy. We're not just playing cards anymore. We're sharing life. Supporting each other. Creating new memories while honoring the old ones. Jessica brings the kids over more often now. Tommy has appointed himself Buddy's official playmate. They spend hours in the backyard. The sound of a boy's laughter mixing with playful barks. Emily reads her school books to him. She says he's the best listener in the world. I know exactly what she means. One Saturday morning, I wake to find frost on the windows. Buddy brings me my slippers as usual. But today feels different. Special somehow. We take our morning walk, our breath visible in the cold air. The neighborhood has changed with the seasons. Halloween decorations give way to early Christmas lights. Buddy trots beside me, gray starting to show around his muzzle. We've been together almost a year now. A year of healing. Of growth. Of finding new ways to love. At the dog park, we meet Jim with his terrier. Sarah, he says, somewhat nervously. I was wondering if you'd like to get coffee sometime? I'm surprised by the invitation. More surprised by my answer. I'd like that, I hear myself say. Buddy wags his tail, looking between us. Later, I tell Jessica about the coffee invitation. Mom, that's wonderful, she exclaims. But I can see the question in her eyes. It's just coffee, I assure her. I'm not looking to replace you. Our father. She squeezes my hand. Dad would want you to be happy, she says softly. I know she's right. Tom always said life was for living. The next week, I meet Jim at the local cafe. We talk about our dogs. About growing older. About losing spouses and finding friendship. It's easy. Comfortable. When I get home, Buddy greets me with his usual calm joy. I tell him about my morning. About how nice it feels to make new connections. He listens, those wise eyes understanding as always. That evening, I sit in Tom's chair. Looking at our wedding photo on the mantel. I'm doing okay, I tell him. We're doing okay. The holidays approach with a gentler feeling this year. Jessica suggests hosting Christmas at my house. Are you sure, Mom? She asks. It's a lot of work. But I want this. Want to fill the house with family again. Want to create new traditions while honoring the old ones. Buddy helps me decorate the tree. Well, mostly he watches and occasionally steals ornaments. But his presence makes it feel like a celebration rather than a chore. The neighborhood kids start dropping by. They say it's to visit Buddy. But they stay to help bake cookies. To hear stories about the old days. To fill the house with young energy. Christmas morning arrives with a blanket of snow. Buddy and I watch the sunrise together. His head resting on my knee. Soon the house will be full of family. Of noise and laughter and love. But for now, it's just us. Just quiet gratitude. For second chances. For unexpected friendships. For the way life surprises you with joy. When Jessica arrives with the kids, they burst through the door. Tommy heads straight for Buddy. Emily carries a special gift for him. A new stuffed duck, since the old one is rather worn. The day unfolds in a blur of wrapping paper and food. Of carols and stories and memories. Old and new blending together. Creating something beautiful. Something healing. That night, after everyone leaves. After the dishes are done and the leftovers stored. I sit in the quiet living room. The tree lights twinkle softly. Buddy lies at my feet, content. I think about the past year. About how far we've come. About how grief can break you open. But love can help you rebuild. Sometimes in unexpected ways. Through the kindness of a shelter dog. Through the patience of family. Through the warmth of old and new friends. Through the courage to begin again. Buddy lifts his head, looking at me with those knowing eyes. I reach down to scratch behind his ears. We did good, didn't we? I whisper. His tail thumps softly against the floor. Tomorrow we'll wake up to a new day. Take our morning walk. Greet the neighbors. Live this life we've built together. Not the life I expected at 72. But one filled with more love than I thought possible. One where grief and joy can coexist. Where memories of the past support dreams of the future. Where a dog's love can help heal a broken heart. And remind you that it's never too late to begin again. End.